it's not for the first time that things feel more psychological than political with regard to Reform UK, British politics in general, and Nigel Farage in particular. You can't be anything other than embarrassed today by your previous support for him. And there are two ways of responding to that embarrassment. You either double down and lash out, which is lucky because I'm here to be lashed at, or you just sort of quietly detach yourself from the whole thing and pretend it never happened. I don't know that there's a third option. If there is, feel free to enlighten me. But there is nothing about beating a bin in a by-election that you claim to have called in order to prove that the establishment were conspiring against you, but the establishment didn't even turn up to the so-called establishment, the former city trader, public school boy, 30, 40-year career politician claiming to be an anti-establishment outsider. That shtick failed a long time ago. But again, you already know that. You know he's about as anti-establishment as the Duke of Edinburgh. So you've already priced in that nonsense and stayed on board. So who gets off board today? Who actually hops off the bus today? Because he's embarrassed you. I'm actually going to urge Nigel Farage to stop using the language of violence. Not just because I'm worried about what his admirers might do, but because I think we should all be worried what his detractors might do. You know that he's talked about pure cold rage. You know that many people consider him partly responsible for the riots that followed the horrible killings in Southport. You know that he talked about picking up a rifle and donning khaki in the event of Brexit not being delivered. But it occurred to me that if you turn up the temperature, you don't get to decide who gets hot. You don't get to confine the responses to the people you're appealing to. You create a political context, a political conversation in which violent language is becoming more normalised. Then you don't get to decide who is going to respond to that, unfortunately. Don't do it anymore, Nigel, please, because it is, for those of us who consider politics to be essentially an honourable business, it is really dangerous. So stop. All right. And I'm now going to go back to mocking you, because there is a huge difference between talking about pure cold rage or talking about rifles or talking about khaki or talking about violence without being able to condemn it and laughing at someone who's made a complete fool of himself. Because that is what has happened overnight. It is objectively hilarious.
The by-election in of itself is a massive humiliation for Farage. I mean, you can't claim any kind of moral victory when somebody who is a self-declared comedian has managed to take 27% almost of the vote. And, even a meagre increase of 1,000 votes when no other major political party is participating is not exactly a resounding victory, is it?
No, of course it isn't. And do you think that's why he didn't turn up? Because he needs to be in a room where people will support him in the nonsense that this isn't a humiliation.
Yeah, it's important to see the language he used. He said there was a plot to embarrass me. It's like, well, the embarrassment comes from your existence at this point, to be honest, Nigel, doesn't it?